After my husband died, my old house seemed too gloomy for me. It would bring back old memories and I couldn't handle it. So I chose to move out. I shifted to a secluded area of town where I'd gotten a good deal for a house. It was very beautiful with an open lawn in its rear. The area was also really safe. There were no robberies or anything. I had spent the entire day unpacking, so I was really tired when night fell. Deciding to go to sleep early, I turned off all the lights and hopped into bed. I was woken up in the middle of the night by a sound downstairs. It was as if someone was coming up the stairs. I was scared, but I had to check it out. I went to the stairs. There was no one there. Not a thing was audible, except the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. I convinced myself that I had imagined it. The next morning, it all felt like a dream, and I settled down, arranging everything in the house. I was cleaning the kitchen window when I saw a woman outside. She was wearing a brown top and had a pale complexion. I even smiled and waved at her, but she just stood there, expressionless. It made me nervous, so I was thankful when a man came out of the house next to mine and took her away, yelling, "Excuse my wife." What was that all about? I wondered. The day was spent putting everything into its place, and I went to bed early. Around midnight, I woke up again to the sound of light chuckling. I sat up in my bed, and to my horror, I saw someone standing in the corner. It was too dark to see, but I was sure it was a woman. She was chuckling and mumbling. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and she ran toward me and took a hold of me, shaking me furiously, screaming. To my horror, she pulled a knife from her pocket. She had every intention to kill me. I kicked and somehow pushed her aside and ran downstairs. She chased me with the knife. My phone was in my bedroom, so I didn't waste a moment and ran out the front door. Running towards the neighbor's porch, I pounded on their door, and the man from the previous day answered after a minute. I told him everything and then asked to use his phone. To my surprise, he said, "Oh no, please don't call the cops." I saw his wife appear, and he grabbed her before she could pounce on me. "She's suffering from a mental disorder. Please don't call the cops," he said as he controlled her. Soon she fainted. This was just too much for me. "She's too dangerous. I will have to call the authorities," I said. He pried the knife from his wife's fingers and gripped it firmly. I looked in horror as he lunged towards me. I ran towards my own house and locked the door as soon as I got in. He pounded on it, and I made my way up the stairs to my room. I grabbed my phone and called 911. When the cops came, they discovered that the house next to mine was empty. Further investigation revealed that it had been on sale for the last 2 weeks and that no one had moved there. So, who were those people then? Me and Adam were moving in together. We decided to rent a new house because, truth be told, both our houses weren't big enough to fulfill our needs. My boyfriend was a programmer, and for that purpose, he had quite a lot of equipment, which required space. I had always been an organized person, and it all made me uneasy. So we rented a new place. It was quite nice. Behind the house, there was a garden, which delighted me, for I've always loved gardening. Facing the garden was a building that I guessed comprised of flats. Our first day was spent unpacking, and when the house started looking more homely, we decided to rest until tomorrow. It was almost dinner time. I went to the kitchen to fix us something to eat. As I got out a couple of plates from the cupboard, I happened to look outside from the kitchen window. My gaze fell on the old man standing at the window of the flat on the top floor. He was staring directly at our kitchen window and just stood there completely still. I thought nothing of it. I resumed what I had been doing, but the next time I looked up, he was there, waving at me. Can't deny that kind of creeped me out. I went to the living room and told Adam all about it. He came with me to the kitchen and looked out the window, his eyes searching for the old man that I had described, but he was gone. The next day, it was Adam's turn to fix dinner. He was in the kitchen when he saw the old man too. Just like the previous night, he was waving. Adam took it as a friendly gesture and waved back, but the old man didn't stop. He kept on waving at him, and his lips twisted up into a creepy smile. Adam thought he must be crazy. He left his room for a bit to fetch something. When he came back, there was no sign of the guy. That night, I woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen to get some water. When I saw a shadow in the garden, inching near the window, I looked more carefully. It was him, the creepy old man waving at me, that psycho smile frozen on his face. I screamed and Adam came running into the kitchen. He asked me what had happened and I pointed a shaky finger at the window saying, "It's him." Adam looked outside, but the man was gone. He'd had enough. Before I could stop him, Adam marched outside towards the flats to go confront the old man. That night, he went directly to the old man's door and knocked on it angrily. There was no answer. He knocked on the neighbor's door instead. A man answered and Adam asked him where the old man was. The man looked puzzled and informed him that he had died the previous month. That shook Adam up and he quietly made his way back to the house. I asked him how it went, but he just brushed it off, not telling me anything at that moment. That night, we were both woken up by a tapping sound at our window. As we sat up on our bed, to our horror, we saw there was a shadow in the corner of our room. As our eyes adjusted to the dimness, we could clearly make out the horrifying, smiling old man. He waved at us, his expression wild and his skin pale. We both yelled. Adam got up off the bed and switched on the light. He was gone. There was no sign of him. Nothing could explain it. Adam finally told me what he had found out about the flat, about the old man's death. We were so shaken up by the events, we decided to move out of the house the very next day. We stayed at my parents' house for a while. We were definitely creeped out, not knowing why we were seeing the old man's ghost. Greg, my husband, got a promotion and transferred to Seattle, so we had to move. We got this beautiful house in an area which was known for its friendly people. We'd heard that the house had been vacant for a while, but didn't question why. We moved in and everything was going great. One night, I woke up to some noises coming from the attic. I woke my husband up. We listened for a good few minutes and then he said, "It's probably the pipes. They tend to make that sound when the weight of the water passes through them. Who knows? It could also be squirrels. This house has been uninhabited for a while." So we thought nothing of it and went back to sleep. It was Greg's first day at work tomorrow and I had to wake up early to do the rest of the unpacking. The next day, after my husband left, I was busy putting crockery into one of the cabinets when I noticed some of it, which I'd placed there the previous day, was missing. I looked around. Maybe Greg had moved it. I wasn't sure. I searched for it, and then I noticed that it was on top of one of the shelves. It was all very weird. I also noticed some other stuff had been moved. The decoration pieces, which I'd placed on the mantelpiece, were now on the center of the table in the drawing room. I was getting jitters now and thought of calling Greg, but then put away my phone. No need to worry him on his first day. I did tell him when he got home, though. He said that I was exhausted from the move and that I should just relax. I didn't think much of it and went to bed. In the middle of the night, the same sounds woke me up again. I woke up Greg and he said we could check it out if that's what it took to calm me down. We went to the attic and I looked around the darkness with the flashlight, but there was nothing except the previous owner's junk. A bit calmed down now. I went to sleep after that. However, I woke up once again. It must have been somewhere around 3 a.m. I saw a figure pass our door in the hallway. Chills went down my spine as I thought of an intruder here in our home. I woke up Greg, who must have been thinking I was crazy by now. We looked around the house, but there wasn't a soul in sight. I wasn't settled this time. I knew what I saw and there was no mistaking it. The next day, I decided to check the attic on my own after Greg had left. While I was checking it out, I saw that a few boards looked to be out of place and I moved them. To my horror, I found a crawl space behind them which had some things lying there. Needles and drug syringes. But that's not what scared me. There were pictures of me cooking, showering, and a videotape of me and Greg sleeping. I called the police right there and notified Greg too. They searched the place, but there was no one there. No suspect was found. The police closed the case, saying that the house maybe had a squatter up there before we moved in. To have someone watching you in your own home and knowing someone was in your house watching you sleep, you never feel safe again. Even today, I find myself looking over my shoulder to see if there's someone watching me.